It is amazing what you can accomplish if you do not care who gets the credit. There is nothing new in the world except the history you do not know. If you can't convince them, confuse them. In reading the lives of great men, I found that the first victory they won was over themselves. Self-discipline with all of them came first. The reward of suffering is experience. I have found the best way to give advice to your children is to find out what they want and then advise them to do it. When you have an efficient government, you have a dictatorship. Carry the battle to them. Don't let them bring it to you. Put them on the defensive and don't ever apologize for anything. You can never get all the facts from just one newspaper, and unless you have all the facts, you cannot make proper judgments about what is going on. Always be sincere, even if you don't mean it. A president cannot always be popular. Art is parasitic on life, just as criticism is parasitic on art. The White House is the finest prison in the world. The only things worth learning are the things you learn after you know it all. We shall never be able to remove suspicion and fear as potential causes of war until communication is permitted to flow, free and open, across international boundaries. Whenever you put a man on the Supreme Court, he ceases to be your friend. The best way to give advice to your children is to find out what they want and then advise them to do it. My father was not a failure. After all, he was the father of a president of the United States. Well, I wouldn't say that I was in the great class, but I had a great time while I was trying to be great. You want a friend in Washington? Get a dog. It's a recession when your neighbor loses his job. It's a depression when you lose yours. America was not built on fear. America was built on courage, on imagination, and an unbeatable determination to do the job at hand. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. I never did give anybody hell. I just told the truth and they thought it was hell. A pessimist is one who makes difficulties of his opportunities, and an optimist is one who makes opportunities of his difficulties. Actions are the seed of fate. Deeds grow into destiny. A politician is a man who understands government. A statesman is a politician who's been dead for 15 years. I never gave anybody hell. I just told the truth and they thought it was hell. I don't believe in little plans. I believe in plans big enough to meet a situation which we can't possibly foresee now. The atom bomb was no great decision. It was merely another powerful weapon in the arsenal of righteousness. A leader in the Democratic Party is a boss. In the Republican Party, he is a leader. When even one American who has done nothing wrong is forced by fear to shut his mind and close his mouth, then all Americans are in peril. This administration is going to be cussed and discussed for years to come. A bureaucrat is a Democrat who holds some office that a Republican wants. Upon books, the collective education of the race depends. They are the sole instruments of registering, perpetuating, and transmitting thought. All the president is a glorified public relations man who spends his time flattering, kissing, and kicking people to get them to do what they are supposed to do anyway. The United Nations is designed to make possible lasting freedom and independence for all its members. Any man who has had the job I've had and didn't have a sense of humor wouldn't still be here. It's plain hokum. If you can't convince them, confuse them. It's an old political trick, but this time it won't work. I would rather have peace in the world than be president. I do not believe there is a problem in this country or the world today which could not be settled if approached through the teaching of the Sermon on the Mount. Intense feeling too often obscures the truth. Washington is a very easy city for you to forget where you came from and why you got there in the first place. A president either is constantly on top of events or, if he hesitates, events will soon be on top of him. I never felt that I could let up for a moment. If I hadn't been President of the United States, I probably would have ended up a piano player in a bawdy house. Being too good is apt to be uninteresting. It sure is hell to be president. You and I are stuck with the necessity of taking the worst of two evils or none at all. So I'm taking the immature Democrat as the best of the two. Nixon is impossible. In my opinion, 8 years as president is enough and sometimes too much for any man to serve in that capacity. Nixon is one of the few in the history of this country to run for high office talking out of both sides of his mouth at the same time and lying out of both sides. Those who want the government to regulate matters of the mind and spirit are like men who are so afraid of being murdered that they commit suicide to avoid assassination. If I'd known how much packing I'd have to do, I'd have run again. Experience has shown how deeply the seeds of war are planted by economic rivalry and social injustice. A president needs political understanding to run the government, but he may be elected without it. I've said many a time that I think the Un-American Activities Committee in the House of Representatives was the most un-American thing in America. Study men, not historians. All my life, whenever it comes time to make a decision, I make it and forget about it. Most of the problems a president has to face have their roots in the past. Whenever a fellow tells me he's bipartisan, I know he's going to vote against me. The president is always abused. If he isn't doing anything.